Cyrus Jones, 1810 to 1913, made his great-grandchildren believe you could live to 103. 103 is forever when you're just a little kid. So Cyrus Jones, live forever. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Muriel Stonewall, 1903 to 1954, lost both of her babies in the Second Great War. Now you should never have to watch as your only children lowered in the ground. You should never have to bury your own babies. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy, ashes to ashes. We all fall down. Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Oh, Gravedigger. Little Mikey Carson, 67 to 75, he rode his bike like the devil until the day he died. When he grows up, he wants to be Mr. Vertigo on a flying trapeze. Oh, 1940 to 1992, Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Oh, Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? I can feel the rain. Oh, Gravedigger, when you dig my grave, could you make it shallow so that I can feel the rain? Gravedigger. Gravedigger.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful vocals by Dave Matthews. So real, everything that he sang, every single word, every character that was sung about sounded so real. Who knows, maybe it is. Then the acoustic sound of the guitar, wow, the violin sound in the background at times, just majestic, just so prolific, so vivid, so real, so lively. When you listen to music like this, it's musical artistry at its finest, at its best. There are many characters in this song, from Cyrus Jones to Muriel Stonewall to Mr. Vertigo, and a child who just lived till 8 years old. But above all, it's about the importance of the grave digger in here.
Yeah.
If the grave digger decides to dig low and deep, the words of this song will not be real, will not be hold true, because characters in it want to be buried closer to the surface of the ground, in the shallow ground, so to speak, so that when it rains, they can actually feel the rain in their graves. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know if that makes much sense. But when you listen to it the way Dave Matthews sings it, you want to believe that that would feel good to be feeling wet in the rain with your dead corpse, with your corpse buried in the ground. So Gravedigger is the most important part of it all. Also highlights, mistakes that we make in our lives, whether at a world level or at a very personal level. One person rode his bike like a maniac and paid the price for it. And the other global level, the second Great War, as was called, which a lot of babies, a lot of old people, a lot of innocent people who had nothing to do with it on either side lost their lives. We in India, many of my ancestors probably lost their lives. Not probably, they did. They lost their lives for no reason. India was not even part of the Second World War, not even part of it. But yet, few millions Indians lost their lives in the Second World War, even without being part of it. Because the colonial rulers of ours, namely the British, the Portuguese, the French, forced us to be part of the war. So many of our ancestors lost their lives innocently in that war. So yeah, we make mistakes, we dig our own grave. It's as simple as that. That's one of the morals I get out of the song. And as it gets darker and darker in the studio of Cafe Roma, let me hand it over to Kirti.
The graves are going deeper and deeper.
Yeah, it's becoming darker in the studio with such words, such prolific music and such real, natural sounding music.
I enjoy Dave Matthews, whether it is DMB or only Dave Matthews here. It seems it's something that is only attributed to Dave Matthews, although it sounded so much like Dave Matthews Band because of the violin featuring in there and the wonderful music that was accompanying him, along with his guitar and his voice. I love the way he sings. He puts in his soul, his heart, his everything, all the emotions that he can to make a song sound so real. So it was surreal when listening to each character, like you said, Savio, and it's a unique perspective to creating a song. I remember the last time, and that was actually the last time, and it's been many years, more than more than 10 years now. Yeah, that last time I visited the church properly for for hour, 2 hours, or maybe 3-4 hours because of someone's funeral. And when you are at a funeral, when you visit the church for mass or something like that, you don't notice certain things. But when you are actually there for a funeral, you do start noticing all the what are they called, the graves, yeah, right? So the stones that are the inscriptions on the stones. I was actually standing and reading, and they startle you when you start reading them. There is so much emotion and there is so much happening. So much life in the dead, just because it is inscripted on those stones. And you imagine just standing above such, so many of them. Because some churches here in India, I don't know how it happens in the most parts of the world. But what happens? We have a graveyard right by the church, and sometimes what happens, because the land is limited here in Mumbai, you happen to have an extension of the church or a chapel or something like that would be above the graveyard. So you would be actually standing, and that was the case where we lived earlier, that the main portion of the church, when it shifted, it was actually made on the graveyards. So the graves of the people, and you're actually stamping on it or you're walking on it, you're just usual thing, doing everything. It's the floor, and below that there are graves of the people, and you are doing your prayer or whatever you're doing on top of it. So you can't help but notice the dates on it, and when you read the dates, sometimes it is just 3 days. And it's bizarre. Sometimes it is longer, like he noticed, and sometimes they are very short, and it's as real as it gets. When you read it, it's as real as you would not even have imagined, that they all lay next to each other just like that randomly. And that happens in the world too. We don't come across people as such, in life, that it happens that somebody lived for 3 days, 3 months, or 30 years, or someone 103 years. But there you see it laid down. And I like the fact that Dave Matthews actually paid attention. Maybe he was also visiting a church and he happened to notice something like that, something that bizarre, and he said, let me just put it together in a song. I like that thought process. I like that,
You know,
as way of seeing the world.
you know one thing. This request has been given by our patron Martin, who's been supporting us for months and years now. Thank you for your support, Martin. Thank you for all the patrons who've supported us over the last 8.5 to 9 years now on this platform. Thanks to you, we can still do this, though in our spare time. We can still do this, and we are continuing to do this. We've also added a younger member to our team, and you can request reactions from Max and Kirti. And Max has not heard any of this music in his life. He's pretty young, but he's not heard any of this music. So if you want a fresh, raw, real review from someone who's not heard any of this music, definitely request some reactions from Max. There are a few tiers to choose from on our Patreon page. The link is in the description box of this video below. The direct link is patreon.com/Inoma. What I wanted to say is that once there was a death at a funeral that I witnessed.
Oh,
The same church that Kirti is talking about, the earlier place we lived.
yeah.
There was a person, middle-aged man. The large crowd was there for a funeral, and large as in 30-40 people is a large crowd in a very small packed graveyard. So this 30-40 people were there. One was a middle-aged man, and unfortunately for him, after the funeral rites took place for one person, possibly a relative, he was walking back silently through the graveyard. He happened to get too close to a very bushy area of the graveyard, and a Russell viper sprung out and bit him, and he died within 15-20 minutes. So the next day was his funeral at the same burial ground. This is a true story. So it's quite ironic and circumstantial what happened. But this has actually happened, that you went for a funeral and the same day you died.
Oh, by the way, we were very careful when we went because
After
you
we
warned
have
us.
heard this,
Yeah.
every time we visited the church
I didn't witness
or
it,
the
but I've been
graveyard,
told.
we have been extremely careful. We've tried to carry a stick sometimes. A couple of times I took a stick, walking stick, to bang on the ground.
Especially when it happens during the rainy season, monsoon. It's all green and it's all very high density of the bush. There are creatures, there are animals around, and you just can't help it because it's also a place where they thrive the most.
Yeah, that's it for this reaction video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Goodbye.